I named the presentation Baby's Brand's First Photo Shoot, or like first shoot, because I was trying to be funny, but this really does address like your first shoots. This by no means means that, like, once again, hard rule for everything. So going to the next page, a few things that we're going to talk about is starting with me, because who doesn't like talking about
That's fair.
Vocabulary that might be a little confusing, branding and brand identity, different types of photo shoots that might apply to like those beginning stages, finding the right photographer, and red flags to look for in photographers, but also red flags in yourself as a brand pitching, because it goes both ways. Like, we want to accept clients as photographers that are not going to make our life a hell, not make our relationships bad. Like, there's some red flags that you might be showing. Well, we'll try to correct that so you do get a photographer that wants to work with you. Planning to execution, obviously a big conversation that's going to be relevant for this. Costs, licensing, and usage goes into costs, but also those are important terms that might not be super familiar from the outside. And art directions with examples of world building and how to think about your brand as a larger scope. So I try to include visuals so it's not as word heavy, but bear with me. If you see a lot of text, don't get scared. I will talk to you through everything. So vocabulary terms that are really relevant in this presentation are editorial. So a lot of people think editorial is a style of photography, which it is, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a style on its own. It exists within the world of magazines. So it's referring to shooting a photo shoot for a magazine that is not an advertisement. So that's a very specific difference, and we'll get more into editorials in a bit. But the fact that it is not per se selling something as much as it's a story being told for a magazine. Documentary is also another style of photography. It's capturing a setting that is not necessarily pre-planned or has a feeling of not being pre-planned, which is different than a lot of other types of photography, but I just wanted to address that. Analog refers to film photography. I might switch and say film photography. It's important to know that it's shot on rolls of film and not like film rolling movie. Yeah. Selects are what are curated images before you get a final selection. I have this as a conversation with people that I'm working a lot with, like the first photo shoots they've ever done, whether this is a brand or a private individual. A lot of people want to pick out their final photos and don't know what that's called. Those are called selects. And normally it comes with a fee because a photographer still has to delete all the blurry pictures, all the pictures that for some reason the lights didn't work and it's black. And then we also do a little bit of adjustment so that you can see the final picture a little clearer as a client. And so it's not that we are just giving you raw pictures ever. Normally you're already seeing like auto adjustments almost so that you can have a better picture of like the brightness or something that we did stylized on our end. Like, I shoot my pictures normally a teeny bit darker just so that I have all the details, but then a client sees that and they're like, oh my God, it's the end of the world, it's too dark. And so in my selects, I'll make it a little bit brighter so they understand the final project beforehand. And then deliverables, it's what is like the final package that you agreed on in your contract. So that could include video, that can include all the photos, that could just include a wide scope, but we'll just refer to it as deliverables quite often. And then a producer is a role on set, a person being in charge of organization, workflow, especially in pre-production. So when you get into a bigger stage of like a photo shoot, there will normally be a producer on set, and that's their entire role. But a lot of the time when you're starting out, either the photographer or the client themselves acts as the producer. And it's really important to have someone that is in charge of that role, because sometimes, depending on the photographer can take that role, but could be not discussed and something is slipping through the cracks. So whether that's a permit, whether it's checking the weather, someone should just be deemed like, this is the cap of producer. You are now producer in charge of like keeping track of all the things.
Yeah, makes sense.
So with that in mind about me, I'm Berlin based. I am 25 now, but I've been doing photography since I was 15. And actually got my first camera when I was 5. I'm queer and mixed and focus on light and fashion in my work. All of those are really relevant to how I try to portray models and approach my work. I'm sure that every photographer has like a moral to their story, and that's like the grounding thing behind mine. A little bit of like what qualifies me to have this presentation is that I recently worked with Shein magazine. I have another editorial coming out with them soon, and Fucking Young magazine. But I've worked with a lot of different editorials and brands like Adidas, Adams, Prohibited. And here's some sample of my work as well as my Instagram. If you have your phones out, you can sneak and look at my profile.
This is an extract from a live event at Simone Business Club. So if you want to know more, check the link in the description.